guys, this is Sid Patel here, CEO of Beverage Trade Network and London Competitions. I'm here with Claudia Volpe. She's the editor of Bar Drinks magazine, which is one of the leading drinks magazine in UK, and we're going to chat about what does a good press story look like. You know, what are editors these days paying attention to, and some tactical tips on how to approach them. So Claudia, thanks for joining me here.
Thank you for having me.
Super. You've been our great partner as well. Thank you for everything and how you've supported London Spirits competition.
Absolutely.
Let's add some value to brands out there who are trying to write stories, who are trying to distribute stories. So I'm going to break it down into the writing element first. What is a good story to you?
So I think nowadays it's very important to just sort of get the tone right, by which I mean, as you well know, drinks industry sort of entices a lot of things and includes a lot of things. Therefore, it's very important to understand where you want to aim. Say your press release, for example, if you are trying to work with a publication like Bar Magazine, and you sort of spreading your story, your press releases, telling the audience about who you are, what you do, it's very important to get the tone right. So, for instance, we are dedicated to the on-trade audience, which means we do include consumer preferences, trends, what we can expect from certain categories. However, it is addressed to decision makers in the industry. In the same way, if you are wanting to attract the on-trade audience, therefore maybe a brand or venues that you want to collaborate with, it's important that you make sure to highlight the benefits for both parties. However, if you are thinking about addressing your story to consumers, then maybe play more of what that it would interest them. So play on their interests, not only when it comes to drinking, but also when it comes to main trends. So for instance, we're seeing with summer drinks coming up, or cocktail serves, lighter serves, healthier serves as well.
So be more timely as well, right?
Exactly, just keep on trend, be sure to stay in touch and go from there.
Got it. Give us some examples of a good title. Like, are there any rules that you prefer, like 4 words, maybe small is better, some no's and some yeses?
Absolutely, yeah, so I think definitely have a catchy headline.
Can you give us an example of, let's say, a brand trying to talk to bartenders?
Let's see, for instance, done some features in the past, and we have a focus on cider coming up, and this is probably going to have to be under embargo, this title, but it's insider information, or insider,
Got it.
gossip,
Something
or insider
exclusive, yeah.
Yes, and it's that sort of wordplay that we try and look for as well when we put our content out, because obviously we want something catchy, and we want something that will interest you and will spark interest in the readers, because remember, obviously this goes to the decision makers, so it's very important that we sort of entice them to read the whole article. However, when it comes to press releases, that can be a bit different. So rather than wordplay, maybe say, for instance, in the if you were to spread the word about London competition, London Spirits competition, you could say, "Oh, don't miss your chance at London Spirits competitions," or find out the best way to make the most out of London Spirits competition. So sort of give them a little bit about what you're going to talk about, but not too much. So they say it's important, it entices them to read the whole piece, and it just sparks a little bit of curiosity.
And then the first 2-3 lines, right? Like, how do you, what are the tips there on those summary lines? Because, for example, now we have to think about distribution of the content, right?
Absolutely.
So let's say you press an article, you share it on LinkedIn, the summary also comes.
Yes.
So how much of attention do you play there, and what are some good ways to write those bylines?
I think it depends whether you are concentrating in print or online. For instance, let's take e-newsletters. Our e-newsletters, usually a couple of our stories, at the end we'll have a couple of lines to sort of say what you're going to read about. Same sort of principle. Yeah, so same sort of principle as the headline. But a little bit more extended. So for instance, let's take again this competition. We could say London Spirits competition opens its door on this date at this place, read more about, if that was a preview. However, if it was a stand first in print, so after the headline but before the copy, we would sort of make it more to the point. So say I was speaking to you, I was writing a piece about you, I would say we have talked to industry expert Sid Patel on the rise of competition in London, for instance. So again, keep it to the point, but leave it open so that you don't limit yourself with what you write in the actual story.
What is a good length now? Let's go in the body.
Absolutely.
How do you structure it?
Again, it depends on print, online, also on the type of piece you are working on. So if you're working on a publication, we have a few different pieces that we follow, like layouts, and we have like a Q&A, for example, and we sort of try and limit that on one page. So that would be around 400 or 500 words. Because that makes it easier to make the questions tailored to the person and the topic, but also keep the attention on. Otherwise,
so just about 500 words for a website?
I think so, yes. I think that would be the best if it was more of an introductive piece.
And is that based on some research? Like you've seen your bounce rates versus longer articles?
So we know that on our website as well, we know that we have a lot of visitors that not necessarily have the time to read a whole magazine. So it's a lot easier to sort of skim through and find the ones that interest them. And maybe on that side, if you are doing an e-newsletter, maybe keep it on 300 words, it's a little bit better. I'd say, because it's for that on-the-go read. Obviously, like in London especially, people are busy going everywhere, running everywhere. Maybe they have 10-minute break for a coffee and they want to get an update on what they need to see, for next month, next week, whatever it is within their business. And they just have that 5 minutes to read and skim through the article, and maybe that will interest them to then read the extended article. So even having a preview and then an extended article, that will help you to entice more readers.
On the press release, right? Are you suggesting the similar sort of word lengths?
Yeah, I would say so. Like press releases tend to be more to the point. So what we receive is most likely around 250, 300 words. Or if it's longer, we usually advise to sort of shorten it a little bit, or we do it, as the editor, I take care of that too. However, that is not to say that you have to keep it to that length, because for instance, when you have case studies, you will need more space. You will need about probably between 600 and 800 words to sort of give a proper outline of the topic, your work with the person you collaborated with or the business you collaborated with, and make sure that you put out there every important information, every essential information that would help people come to you as clients.
I want to ask you about winners' press releases, right? So for us, especially, I'll be a little selfish here. So when we announce our winners, one of the main things that we want our producers and brands to do is write great press releases and send out to media, local media, their regions, their country, newspapers, and so on. Let's say, XYZ winery won Shiraz of the Year in London Wine Competition, or Rum of the Year is from this country.
Yes.
How do you advise them to, distribute which magazines or countries or regions or types of editors or things like that would get a better hitting rate?
Okay, so I think first of all, like once you've gotten your content right, you're already halfway through. And so I think a very effective headline that I've seen lately, it's always pushed me to sort of read through the press release and consider it for our publication, is winners of competition announced. So whether it's one or whether it's a team that goes to the next phase, like you never know, that is a clickbait headline, and it's almost guaranteed, in my opinion, that somebody will go and click and actually read through. Also, competitions are so exciting. So whether it's a preview or a review of a competition, it will have a relative success anywhere you send it through. When, for example, somebody from abroad is involved, and then you sort of want to pay attention to the tone of the press release, because obviously the press release will have a different effect if spread in England, for example. But say you have a winner from Brazil and you want to let them know that this person is the champion of the country, you sort of have to change approach. So it's more like, Brazilian outstanding bartender wins British competition, for example. So it's sort of inversing the point.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yes. And that story will still do good in Brazil even this end, right? So because
Yes.
it's like it's showing that it's once
Exactly.
a UK
So
competition.
you move the focus from the fact that they won a British competition to the fact that a Brazilian, in this case,
True.
champion, won it.
Yeah.
Whilst if you were
And do you advise to write the name, like XYZ rum wins rum of the year at London competition? Or is there a
Actually,
better
no.
way? Okay.
Actually, no. I think once you've given the name, people just go and look up the name and see what this person does.
So how do you write that?
I would say, for instance, we just mentioned, saying the country they come from.
Like Brazilian rum takes a trophy.
Exactly.
in UK,
Or
like that?
for instance, I don't know, Scottish venue reaches success. And then in the press release or in the first two lines or the byline, you will write, Scottish venue, name of the venue, has received a lot of success and praise, for instance. So it sort of leaves that aura of mystery almost.
Yeah, understood. I know that you may be getting a lot of press releases and you just
Loads.
completely ignore. So which are the ones that take your attention, and why do you select that person's press release?
So first of all, I obviously will be looking at the most flawless press release, I'd say. So when it has a good tone, when it flows perfectly, when you read it, obviously it is my job as an editor to sort of tweak it when issues arise, but it's always a good sign when the press release or story have already got that professional and focused layout. That's very important because that also shows an understanding from the brand or the company that issued it of their audience.
And in that you want contact information, image, Dropbox link, high resolution images.
So always drop a link or attach high-res images, which we always advise to be around like at least 700 KB. And that's very important because sometimes when we have last-minute, add-ons, our e-newsletter, for instance, if a story comes in and we think it's very interesting, sometimes we haven't been able to publish it just because we had to chase for an image, which
it's
means
more work for you, so you just forget.
Not even that, but that means that because we will probably publish it at a later date.
Yeah.
However, you as a company lose that time frame opportunity.
True.
So just making sure that enlisting all the information and images or person to email if you need anything.
What
that
file
is
format do you suggest? Like Word file so you can edit, or a Google
Yes.
Doc? Not PDF, correct?
Yeah, not PDF. I mean, we do receive PDFs as well. It's fine. We do, copy and paste. But I reckon a Word document format and just a WeTransfer or Dropbox link images for the images would work better.
Okay. What about follow-up? Let's say I've sent you my, again, London competition. I've been announced. Claudia has not responded. Now maybe I'll just go on LinkedIn. I'm just showing my approach. I'll go on LinkedIn and say, hey Claudia, just hope you're doing well. I just sent you a press release. I'm also attaching it here just for your reference in case your email gets busy.
Absolutely.
And then I'll say, hope you're having a great day. And if any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Everything is in that, right?
That is a great way to do it. Sometimes where people call in the office and ask, have you seen this press release? Sometimes we haven't seen it because it's just been too busy.
People
sometimes
still call?
Yeah, people still
And
call.
that works? That picks your attention?
Yeah, it does. Like we operate still, on phones as well. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
you do entertain someone calling? Like
yeah, absolutely. Like we accept Epico. We give you as much information as we can if you have any questions. If you say, have you seen my press release? If we have time, we'll ask you on the phone, or can you tell us a little bit about it because I haven't seen it.
And what about Instagram? Do you think that's private? Like you prefer people not DM you there, or it's okay?
I think it depends. So me, for instance, I don't mind, but we also have a business platform, Bar Magazine. So I guess our messages come through there.
Okay.
However, me personally and other members of the team as well get private messages on LinkedIn, which I think is the way to go nowadays. I think LinkedIn is actually coming back, if that's possible.
Yeah.
So I personally thought the LinkedIn was becoming a little bit outdated, and actually this year it's been mad.
Yeah, it's the social media platform.
I know, and it's mental because Instagram obviously has been the one platform to really share everything on, but on LinkedIn actually you create those connections, and it's also more focused, I think.
Yep.
So by all means do messages on LinkedIn, and that's how we sort of get to know new brands and also keep relationship with previous brands and clients alive.
Great. Let me clarify one thing. Maybe even I'm challenged always to find this. Now, when you're searching for a title or a person, you know that is a big part of the thing, right? So writer, editor, chief editor, or publisher.
Yeah.
Who is the actual decision maker who can get the press release? Like, who's the right person to reach out to?
So I think reaching out to the editor of the magazine is always a good shout, because not only the editor will be able to assess, but always remember that it is teamwork. So in my situation, for example, Manjeet, Manjeet, she's my publication manager. So it will become, if I think a story is interesting, then I'll sit down with Manjeet and say, I think this is a story that is very relevant for our readers. Do you think that it will have the effect that I think it has? And if she agrees and the rest of the team agree, then we do publish it. It's never a one-person job.
Do you, like, normally, sometimes I also do is I'll message Manjeet, I'll message this, and I'll message writer also, the same thing, right? But maybe internally you guys say, I also got this message, I also got this message.
I think it's a bit different with like press releases, obviously, because sometimes it's about new launches specifically, so maybe you don't want to...
So it's okay, right? It's
okay, it's not a problem
that you're
at
spamming
all.
Or something?
No, okay. You're not spamming. I would say though, if you do have questions or if you want feedback from both the publication manager or account manager or whoever you want to speak to and the editor or writer, maybe just CC them in and do a collective email. Cool. So say you want to ask me and Manj to organise an interview like today, maybe email Manj or call Manj. However, you always feel free to email Manj and CC me in so that I know as well if you were contacting me. Otherwise, or publication managers usually keep us today anyway, luckily. Luckily, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to do our job. So that sort of come to us and say, these opportunities come through, I'll pass it over to you, let me know what you think.
Got it.
And then we judge, we make a decision.